and welcome to the Village Community Rising Journey Series. And we're talking about music and culture, and we'd like to welcome everybody. And tonight's guest is a very special guest that's near and dear to me, and we'd like to welcome none other than Julius Kimbrough to the show.
What's up, Darrell? How are you?
What's up, Doc? As we affectionately call Doc, because he was a pharmacist, so we call him Doc, just Doc.
Yeah. So, I was still mixing in the bar business. I was still mixing.
You were still mixing. Yeah, that's true, man. That's true. So, for those of you who do not know, Julius Kimbrough is a legend amongst the musicians, and he is definitely loved in our culture, local culture, because he actually owned a couple of places actually, and we're going to get into both of those places, and where guys can express themselves musically via jazz and other things too. So we had a lot of different types of music there, but mainly jazz. And so welcome to the show, Doc. And first of all, and thank you for coming on and actually letting the people know, man, something. This is really an important part of history in New Orleans here, musical history.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here. It's all about music, so.
Oh yeah.
And my whatever I can do to that.
Mm-hmm. So even though you are definitely a New Orleanian, you were born elsewhere. Tell us a little bit about that coming up.
Born in Selma, Alabama.
Selma.
And I got to New Orleans because of Xavier University, and I wanted to be a pharmacist, so I came to Xavier College of Pharmacy.
Right.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then you had pharmacy.
After college. After college, I went to Chicago to work for Walgreens for 9 years. Mm-hmm. So I came back to New Orleans in 1971 to open my first drugstore.
Right.
Yeah, 29 years old and wife and 3 children.
Yeah. I used to go to that drugstore too, but I didn't know I would be in your club later on in life, man.
Well, you were a little boy.
Yeah, I was a little boy then. I was like that.
Yeah.
But you were in the 7th ward, so
right.
That's where we're going to talk about that, the 7th ward, and how instrumental this. Actually, in New Orleans, even though we have different sections of the city, a lot of them are equally engaged in the development of the music scene. Okay. We have the Neville Brothers up there, way up in Uptown. We had Treme, legendary, and then we had the 6th ward. We had a lot of people in the 6th ward, which included Treme, and the 7th ward. So we had some great hall, what they call school hall concerts, the schoolyard concerts that they used to have coming up. School fairs. A lot of people had a chance to play school fairs. A lot of bands coming up. Yeah, so that was
in Gertown.
Yeah, great time.
Right off at the Joy Tavern, we called it JT. So that's where I was introduced to live jazz right there. Wow. But then when I got a bus ride, I went straight up Washington Avenue, Louisiana Avenue, Red Street. That's where the music was. I didn't know anything about the 6th ward, 7th ward at the time during those years. When I was a teenager, I was 17, 18, and I left here at 21. So all of my experience was mostly uptown.
Yeah.
For live music, yeah.
What was some of the other clubs uptown? It had to be like
Of course, the Dewdrop was up there. You know, George Tavern, Dewdrop.
Of course, yeah.
What were they now? You're making me go back now, but
yeah, I
Hunt.
mean,
I can't remember all of those,
yeah,
but I just remember hearing music up there. And then Masons also, you know.
Oh yeah,
Claiborne, you know.
Yeah, Claiborne.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
great
lot
time. Of music up there, you know.
Great time, and that's what we kind of miss those neighborhood places, and then that's where that's why we have you on here, because you are one of the goats of modern jazz venue owners, and especially in the Seventh Ward. So I kind of relate that to the Dewdrop, really.
Yeah.
You know, of the Seventh Ward, because there was a lot of history there. And for those of you who just tuned in, we're talking to Julius Kimbrough, and we're talking about he's one of the supreme club owners in New Orleans, who's owned both the Showcase and Prime Example, and he ran them impeccably. And every musician loved to play at his clubs because he loved the music.
Oh yeah.
So we want to talk about where you started at with the Phrase Club.
The Showcase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the Showcase. I happened to, my brother actually, and I started out together. He used to hang out at the Showcase. It was an existing club, but not a music club, just a neighborhood club. And he called me one day, and he said, the Showcase is for sale. What do you think? I said, let's do it. You know, the entrepreneur in me, I didn't know anything about running a club. But if you're an entrepreneur sitting around in bars, you watch the operations and develop ideas. If I own this is what I would be doing. You know, never in the wildest dream did I think I'd ever be in the bar business. I was strictly drugstores. I think I went on to have 4 drugstores at one time. But and I didn't have any idea about this, except that when my brother said the opportunity was there, I said, okay, let's try it. Let's go. So we put together a few dollars with the help of my sister-in-law and bought the bar. That was in 1992.
92, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So we started out with and almost immediately started doing music only on Sunday. And
I remember.
I didn't know musicians. I didn't know who to ask, and I asked friends, and they recommended Sharon Martin. So I called her, and I said, Sharon, do you have a gig? I told her, introduce myself, and we had never even seen each other. And I said, do you have a gig on Sundays? She said, no. I said, well, you got one now. You know, this was just leaning on friends telling me. And who showed up was a classmate of mine first. And it was his band, Walter Payton and the Snap Bean Band.
Snap Bean Band.
Yeah. And that lasted 5 years, every Sunday for 5 years.
Yes.
That was how I was introduced to live music and introduced music in the Seventh Ward. And I kept wondering why, if these musicians live in this neighborhood, why aren't they playing in this neighborhood? Why isn't music? Why we got to go someplace to listen to music? You know, and we started doing it right over in the corner in the bar. You know, so.
But that's what I love.
Equipment.
Yeah.
And worked out.
And that's what I love, because it was truly there was truly a different kind of energy in your clubs. It was one of warmth, because first of all, I mean, certainly, you know, we wanted you to make a profit, but the bottom line is that you love the music first. And I think that because you love the music so passionately, I think that's what made the club so successful, you know.
Well, that was my great interest. You know, I looked at it, if I can put out a great product, and that really is true in every business. And it happened to be a great love of mine. And I'm not a musician either. I played saxophone in high school, and but I put it down, in high school, and never picked the horn up again. I wish I had kept on, but I did not. And then I got into this business, and just, oh man, lovely. And most wonderful thing about it, as a group of people, the musicians are just all so warm, because everybody in the business loves what they're doing. That is so wonderful to be around a group like that, and work with those people,
Yeah. I remember the Snap Bean Band. Man, you really bringing back memories. That was a great convergence in time in terms of music. I'm sure everybody has their own convergence time where they really can go back and say, wow, that was really like the Do Drop In. And that's why I kind of keep mentioning Do Drop In as a marker for a club like this, because this is a very important club to a lot of, I can say it for myself, a lot of our development, my development in particular. So I had a band. I was with Hurley Blanchard and Julius Evans. And I remember we came in there and yes, as Cut Time. That's what it was, Cut Time.
Okay.
And, I still have one of the posters too. I still have one of the posters that we had. And it was just a great feeling playing at the club. And then that's when you started to expand, and then you started to have like different types of nights, and especially around like Jazz Fest. And talk a little bit about those Jazz Fest nights. Now that was really.
Those were the times, man.
Yeah, that was really.
We started out with the one night, like I said, on Sunday, and then we added on a Saturday night. I never did music on Friday except during Jazz Fest, because I said I have to leave that night open to make some money. So on the days when we didn't make any money with the music, at least I could have a little money to pay everybody, because I could make up on Friday. That was always a big day. So, but Jazz Fest, as you speak about it, we used to do 3 shows during Jazz Fest. An early show, then one around 10, 11 o'clock at night. Then we start one around 2 in the morning. We call it breakfast show. And with the addition at the door, you get a breakfast. And we used to play until 5, 6 in the morning, live music, flying out of the door,
Yeah. Sunrise.
Night Freddie Hubbard showed up at the door. Nicholas was on. Yes. That was wonderful.
Beautiful time. Yeah. Those, I mean, everybody played there, and a lot of the mainstream artists who were just playing downtown. Because what happens is that people only think of clubs being like located downtown. Somebody would ask me, "Hey man, where can I go to hear live music?" Well, you don't have to stay downtown. When I tell them the showcase, where's that, man? I say, I mean, it's a little off the beaten path, but really, nothing is far away in New Orleans. It's a cab ride away at that time, because we didn't have Lyft and Uber at the time. So people would have to take a taxi to your club, from downtown. And that would be the norm. And eventually it just caught fire. People just come to realize that this is a great neighborhood place, because people tend not to like places that are touristy.
That's right.
They want something that's real and that has a pulse of the city and the pulse of the area. And
I never wanted to be a tourist place. I call it a tourist joint, but I never wanted to be. even though you do need that, you need
You need that.
tourists. You want to
Yeah.
expose them to the city. You need the cash that they're going to
Mhm.
bring because they're also going to eat while they're there. And but for the locals, and my theme, my logo said jazz, blues, and food. You know,
That is
great people. You know, great people, great fun. You know, so that
definitely.
was how we kind of conducted business.
Yeah.
Having fun first.
Having fun first. And that was so true. And you would say, hey, no matter what you're drinking, you could be drinking water, but you would say, hey, man, go get your whiskey, man. And
Some whiskey.
everything for the whiskey. Go get your whiskey, man.
Yeah. So that's
I
not
could be
whiskey.
drinking
That's
Heineken
beer.
or something,
It's
man. It's like,
whiskey to me.
yeah, it's a very good, very good atmosphere, you know. And
Yeah.
the staff, maybe you might want to talk about the staff. The staff was really on point.
I always think that
At
this
the showcase, we'll start at the showcase.
establishments are a reflection of the ownership,
Right.
no matter who that is. If you are warm to your customers and treat your customers good, your staff is going to follow that lead, and you try to hire good people. And I you know, when I closed, my staff had been around. One young lady had been there 22 years, you know,
Yeah.
one about 16 years. The
Mm-hmm.
very newest person had been there for about 5 years, you know, and I got those people because the people on the staff recommended, you know, somebody
Right.
that they knew who would fit into what we were
Mm-hmm.
trying to do, you know.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, that was a great staff, and I want to say that I mean, from the minute we got into the club, it was just I mean, you felt the vibe there. I can't express that enough. That the vibe means everything to musicians.
Yeah,
And there you go. There's
right
theme. That's like the prime. Yeah, that's like the prime.
One of the staff members there, Kim, you know, she was
Kim,
there for many years, started out as a customer.
Yep.
You know.
I just saw Kim last week too.
Did you? Did you?
Yeah.
And you know, I really want to say too that one of the great joys that I had was seeing young musicians coming up. And you guys mentored those younger guys, you know, as they came through. We had in the showcase, well, we know about Jesse McBride at the prime example, but Jesse was a kid back in the showcase days, so he wasn't around.
Yeah, he wasn't around that.
In Houston then, but way back we had students coming in from Loyola, Tulane, UNO, who sat in. That would be a line of them around the wall waiting because the final set of the night, we would have youngsters come up, 1, 2 at a time to join in with the band. So they got great exposure and experience, and there's nothing better. You can listen to all the lectures you want, but when you get on that stage and you're with the masters on stage, you know, you got to step up and you learn so much, you know. So I saw students over like a 4-year period, sometimes earlier than that. You know, I'm thinking way back when Nicholas started, you know, he was, you know, 12, 13 years old. Christian Scott, Irvin Mayfield, all were kids. I'm talking about. Yeah, they were in their teens. I remember one time I hired Irvin, and the oldest person in the band was 19 years old.
Yep.
You know, a quintet. Yeah. So, but seeing that happen, Brian Richburg recently, I just looked the other day, and he's finishing college now. And he started playing in the club when he was about 15 years old, you know.
Now we talking about we after we go from the showcase, we had Katrina, right? Hurricane Katrina. So
that's what closed the showcase.
I
operated the showcase until about it closed in 2005. But in 2000, the prime example became available. The owner of that bar just wanted out. You know, he was ready to go in. And because I didn't have a good feel for who might buy it or what kind of crowd they might bring, I stepped across the street and bought that, thinking that I was just protecting myself and not knowing really what I was going to do with it. And kind of for 4 or 5 years, I used it for special events. I rented it out a few times, but primarily it was on hold across the street. And then Katrina came.
Yeah.
So I had both the corners. They were right across the street from each other. And then Katrina came, and there was just nobody in town. When I got back to open up, I moved back. Katrina was 29th of August. I got back in town in October, and I started working on the bar in January. And I opened up 4 Jazz Fests of 2006. You know, so it was it worked, you know.
Yeah, and I think you, even though you were doing, and I digress back to, I know we're on a prime example now. I kind of digress to the showcase because I think even it was really no competition with the night concerts at the Jazz Fest, because I think they were still doing night concerts as a part of the Jazz Fest. And still, you guys in the club business was still thriving with ancillary acts that's outside of the festival. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We called it the Showcase Fest.
Yeah, Showcase Fest.
Yeah, because we did every night, at least 2 shows every night doing jazz, you know. And during that period, we did a lot of work with WWOZ. They were a much smaller organization then, and they needed programming. So they would come over and tape our shows or do live broadcasts from there. So we got a lot of exposure that way. And that's how National Public Radio got a wind of us. They went to Winton, and they were getting these tapes with all this good music, and they had a representative, unbeknownst to me, to come in and check the place out. And then they asked Winton, what about the showcase? And of course, he was in New York. He didn't know anything about it, even though his brothers played there, you know. He didn't know anything. So they called me one day and said, this was 1996, and said, we've been listening to some great music coming out of your place. How would you like to host New Year's Eve for the Central Time Zone? I said, come on with it, you know. So we put on a wonderful show. That first year we had Wes Anderson. And of course he had most of Winston's band with him. He had Victor Goins and Hurley, and you know, with him. That was just a wonderful show. And we killed the New York and the West Coast in ratings that night. And I thought that was it. They called me back about 6 months later and said, the staff won't go anyplace else. And he said, do you know what kind of position you're in? Do you know how large the Central Time Zone is? And I sure, it goes all up, you know, Midwest, Chicago and all. He said, you know how many people want this show? But my staff would not allow us to go any place but the showcase again. So that year I had Donald Harrison. And of course, Donald came and had a great band. and of course he introduced the Indians, and and it was just
Oh
fabulous,
yeah, yeah,
fabulous time, man,
yeah.
fabulous.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful time, man. That's great knowledge, and a lot of people, don't really know that. For those of you just tuning in, we're talking to Julius Kimbrough, the previous owner of the Showcase and the Prime Example jazz clubs in New Orleans in the 7th Ward, my area where I grew up at. I went to St. Augustine High School. I'm proud to say it. A Purple Knight.
yeah,
right there, because there was a donut shop right on the corner where McDonald's was.
exactly. Directly across the street.
Yeah,
That's exactly
when I was
right.
young. So it was very, very much a part of my neighborhood. These two clubs, and right across from each other. I mean, it was like a stroke of lightning. A lightning bolt hit, and you went from one side of the street to the other side of the street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Pampers was open at the time.
Yeah, Pampers too.
Yeah, he was about three doors down, and he was doing some music with Michael Ward at the time.
Yeah.
That's how, So
yeah, it would never conflict. Everybody would kind of frequent every club. I would, if you go from Pampers, you come to the Showcase. You go to the Showcase, a Prime Example. You come back to Pampers, whatever, And it was really a great scene.
Exactly.
We were, I know, in the mid '90s. I think we were playing. It even had even further out in the closer to the 8th Ward. I was playing with Hurley Blanchard and Don Ramsey with over at Butch's place, Butch Beverly's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would do Sundays over there.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So this is what I liked about those neighborhood clubs. I mean, it was just something that was just so unique about each and every one of them.
Yeah.
Each one of those clubs had a character, and that's your club certainly had a theme throughout it. I didn't. In other words, after I went over to the Prime Example, I was saying, man, we showed Mr. Showcase, but no, you just picked it up right at the Prime Example. You picked up right where you
started. Opened up over there, yeah, and it worked out really, really well. I had a decision to make about those clubs coming back. There was just absolutely nobody here after Katrina, and just for financial reasons, the Prime Example worked out. But the acoustics in the building worked out really well. And for the number of people who were here in the city immediately after the storm, it worked out good for sounds. I mean, for size and the number of people who were available to come in, So I really enjoyed. I was just thinking just now that during the early days, Bally Boat was open, the gambling boat out there, and they would have entertainment. And I remember Earth, Wind, and Fire, and those guys would drop in. Like I remember, I was telling you the Hurling, I mean not Hurling. Freddie Hubbard dropped in one night. Hearing about the music. Well, where is anything happening? Well. Showcase. Go to
people always ask, what is happening? Where's where's that? That's the thing. And when we talk about the Prime Example, talk a little bit about the time we just flashed out a quote by Jesse McBride, who really had the next generation over at the Prime Example, and he was really getting a lot of the young guys together over there. And talk a little bit about Jesse and his tenure over there.
Yeah, well, I met Jesse. Actually, I met him uptown. I had a club uptown also for a short run. It was called Example Supper Club.
Yeah,
up on Louisiana and Carondelet. A lot of people.
I forgot all about that one.
Yeah, so I had that for a couple of months. Just made a mistake. Too ambitious up there. It was a great space, but just I had 3 clubs then, trying to maintain, and and the showcase was the one making downtown was the one making the money, the one uptown was kind of draining that because I was trying to do too many nights. Is what it was. It was a good sized place, and quite frankly, I should have used it as a hall just to maintain the space and music sometime. But I was really ambitious in trying to do 4 or 5 nights up there, 4 or 5 nights downtown. That didn't last but a couple of years. So didn't explore. That was one of those. But every businessman has those kind of days, Some you win some, you lose some, and that was one of those. But it was a beautiful, beautiful space.
Yeah, you got to find out what works and what doesn't. So I mean, it was just one of those things. But yeah, it was just something that was unique. And I played. I forgot all about that place, Doc. And used to be called something else. A few things. Nightcap, Kilimanjaro.
His family owned it. Big Chief, Doucette, Big Al. His brothers, his brothers. There were 3 of them that owned that club. And I'm not calling the name right now, but this is way back then. But Jesse, I met him up there. He would come in. Because he was up at Loyola, and he would come in on Sundays for the brunch set, and sometimes play piano. But once I went back downtown, he came down and he said, "I got these guys in the next generation. I'd like to have a night." He said, "What do you got available?" I said, "Nothing really, Jesse." He said, "Give me a night, just off night, any night. You're not doing nothing." And I said, "Well, what about Tuesday night?" He said, "Okay." He said, "We'll just play, and whatever we can make, on the door, we'll just do that." I said, "Because I can't afford another night." He said, "Well, we'll just do some music, and I want these young guys to start playing." I've seen some wonderful musicians come through Jesse's band and his efforts. They were there also. That was another one of those 5-year stints, I was just looking at a list of young musicians. Joe Dice came through that band. Joe was about 15 when he started in high school.
That's right.
John Michael Bradford. Brian Richburg. Amina Scott.
Amina Scott. I love him. Love playing with me.
Royal, Ryan Hansler, Rex Gregory. A lot of just on and on and on and on, man. Just so many. Yeah,
it's a beautiful.
Yeah,
and all due to you, Doc. All due to you, because you were the you were the glue that held a lot of that together.
Well, and those guys came back. I mean, Christian Scott is another one who years later would come in and just sit in with those young guys. Nicholas used to come in and sit in with them. You came in and sat in with them. That was just a great learning experience for them. This is where if you practice, this is where you can be.
Right.
And that's rewarding for me.
Yeah.
And I'm
sure that's how the older guys treated us. They helped us and they taught us, Ed Frank and people like that. And I always tell people that same story. You don't have that kind of camaraderie and kind of mentorship, except maybe from a few people like, Donald Harrison certainly is instrumental with actually mentoring guys and bringing cats along and showing cats, well, look, man, do this, don't do that, just check this out, and he's good with that. You know, Big Chief is really good with that, and that's how people used to be. I mean, I remember I tell people all the time. I was with we were just talking about Smokey Johnson before the show, and Fred Kemp. Man, they called me for a gig. I was scared to death.
Yeah.
And man, they believed in me more than I believed in myself, man.
Exactly.
Said, man, you can do this, man. Come on, do this gig, man. It's like, man, and then I felt so they made me feel so welcome, man. I learned a lot of stuff from them on the bandstand.
That on LaSalle Street?
Yeah. Fred's Club.
Place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was one of the guys I met at JT's, because that band was Red Tyler, Alan Toussaint, Ed Frank, Smokey Johnson. The vocalist was
wasn't Jermaine, huh?
No, but I saw Jermaine during that period, and she might have come in sometime, but this lady left and went to California and did really well.
It wasn't Sandra Booker?
No.
It wasn't Laverne, maybe. It wasn't
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was just so many people, man, that really was on the scene, that was instrumental with actually, you know, helping the scene grow, you know, and they would pass the information down to the next generation, you know. Yeah.
I was thinking of all of the names that were not locals who were in town, who we brought in too. Dr. Lonnie Smith, you know.
Oh yeah, Dr. Lonnie Smith. Yeah.
Grant Green Jr. Tane. Yeah. That was a big show. He even got Hurlin out to come look at that. Hurlin was sitting in the audience with me, tapping his feet when Tane watched. Yeah, that was wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. Somebody said on the side,
getting him down. Del Field.
Oh yeah.
Del Field Marcellus is who put me in touch with him and got him down here, and that was a big night. Yeah.
Somebody mentioned on the side Lady BJ.
Oh Lord have mercy. Yes, goodness. Yeah. Lady BJ.
How you doing, Diane? I see you out there listening. Thanks for listening, Diane. We're talking about Lady BJ.
Yeah, she was wonderful. I saw her. She performed at that Prime Example one time, but I saw her many times over at what was the club on St. Claude, Rampart?
St. Claude Rampart. You're not talking about I'm drawing a blank now. It's it could be not Paul's place, huh?
Yeah.
Sweet Lorraine?
No, it was before Paul. This was where the Jazz Fest building is now. Jazz Fest office.
Oh, over there by Lou and Charles.
Lou and Charles.
Lou and Charles. Yeah.
So that was another great venue for music, you know.
Yeah, I forgot about you know, and now we're talking about neighborhood clubs. Lou and Charles.
Ellis was in there. You know, when I first came, Philip Manuel, all of those people. Yeah.
That was a great club too. Also run by another great person who knows how to run clubs, and that's Charlie Barron.
Charlie Barron. Exactly.
Yeah. And he was in charge of the night concerts, along with him and Jackie Harris were producing the night concerts, if I'm not mistaken, for the Jazz Fest.
The Jazz Fest, right? So he had a lot of connections with musicians, right? Yeah, a really nice club there.
Yeah. But yeah, that's another yet a neighborhood club that a lot of people don't really know about. You know what I'm saying? They forget about some. We as musicians know about it, but a lot of the rest of the young people don't know a lot of these places. You know, where a lot of these musicians performed at. So
right. I was just
Yeah.
thinking of, Mark Whitfield. He used to
Oh yeah,
come in
that's my
to
boy.
play at the club all the time,
Yeah, Mark coming
Talk,
out of Baton
talk,
Rouge.
yeah.
Hmm.
Wait,
Yeah,
uh,
David T. Torganowski.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
it's a beautiful time. Yeah, beautiful time, beautiful time, man. And then let's not talk about let we got to mention the best yakami upstairs too. Let's talk a little bit about that, the food part, which was probably separate from the club, but still in all very essential.
Well, it was my operation, but I ran, actually managed the kitchen. I didn't cook, but I
Mm-hmm.
ran my kitchen on its showcase.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never worked as hard as trying to manage your kitchen. The club, I could get that done. After a minute, I had that done. Once I booked my bands, and
Right.
had right people uh, performing their duties, it was okay. The kitchen was
Mm-hmm.
another thing. I mean, that's a constant purchasing and
Oh yeah.
producing a high quality food. Lonnie
Yeah.
Ventry was my chef. We were trying to do lunch,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And then at the showcase, we got on Jermaine Gaines was the chef at the Prime Example.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a wonderful yakami. I had people coming in, not for the music, they come in to eat. But I always thought that if people are going to come into your club and sit down for 2, 3 hours, and because we didn't turn the crowd, never did at either one of the clubs, we
Mm-hmm.
would, if you came in and paid for the first show, you could stay for the second one. Of
Yeah.
course, there were always enough people leaving that we could get more people for the second show.
Right.
But uh, they wanted to eat. So it was always important for me to have a high quality food
Right.
uh, so that people could get some chicken, yakami, gumbo.
That was the
Uh,
best yakami to me right there. I would come there late, even if I wasn't playing, and even if there was no music there. If it was an off night for musicians, I come there. Where you at, Doc? What's going on? I come in to get my yakami.
yeah, and the bands, I always told them, this is part of it. So a lot of guys would come early and eat before they go on the gig.
That's
Some
right.
ate during the break, some ate afterwards and took it home, that kind of thing. But that was part of the pay package, not
Right.
not a substitute for it, but I
Yeah.
always felt like I could do something else. Guys that worked hard, they needed a little
Mhm.
something to make them feel good.
Oh
That and a
yeah.
couple of drinks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, if we drink it, we got to eat. So,
Oh yeah,
so
oh yeah.
we gonna eat some of that fried fish and yakami, man. That's some good stuff, man. That they were doing there, man. So yeah, and the music was just on point, and we had, you had, I remember you had Alexi, my man,
Oh yeah,
Alexi
oh yeah,
Marty, great musician,
yeah,
as of
and
late,
yeah, and
before the
because
pandemic, I should say.
Ariana, I started having music from Cuba.
Yeah.
So at one point we were doing a Cuban night once a month, and
Hmm.
we had bands coming in from Havana,
Yeah.
and I'm not so sure if that's around the time that I met Alexi, but during that period, I'm sure. But then he became a really regular with everybody. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't even. I sat down yesterday and was just listing musicians off the top of my head that had played in the club, and I got into the hundreds. I said, "Oh, there's no time to mention all of this," but
No,
uh,
it's hard to mention everybody, but we got all the cats, most of the cats in, but because I mean, you started a lot of cats, including me, out. You know what I'm saying?
well,
I I was
I
fresh.
remember you were working for the state when I said, "Man, what are you doing? Still working a job? The weather you play, you can make a living just playing music."
And I did. in
Yeah.
1997, I took the leap of faith and I walked on water.
Walk off. That's it. If you believe in it. So you can
Oh,
always
yeah.
go back and do that.
Yeah. I was like, man, yeah. It was,
You know, and so you're thriving, you know. Now I'm looking at Facebook and I see you coming in town recording and all of that every day.
Yeah.
Can't get you back full time, but you know, we'll take
who knows? I may be back. You know, I may be back. I'm like coming there every time. I'm missing it. Every time it's like homesick. You know. But,
yeah.
It's a
I
beautiful
remember
thing.
looking at Ed Anderson.
Ed Anderson.
He and he and his dad and I went to Xavier together. He's pharmacist also, and so we go back. I remember when Ed was born in Chicago, but I remember him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm coming." He said, "I'll be there. What date?" And we talk about date. I said, "Darrell gonna be with you?" He said, "Well, let me check and see." He said, "Darrell might be busy." I said, "Well, you check and see if Darrell's gonna be there." You know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ed was my guy. I miss him a lot. You know, he's integral part, and he was the founding member of Blue Orleans. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about Edward Anderson, the trumpet player, the late trumpet player, Edward Anderson, who transitioned last year during the pandemic around June, and we made three CDs together. And it was it's a beautiful thing, beautiful thing to and a lot of people in that band, like Clarence Johnson. We had a whole diaspora of musicians come through the band. Aaron Fletcher, Herman LeBeau, Mark Dix, Donald Ramsey, you name it. Bill Summers, you can put some percussion.
Bill Summers, exactly. Yeah.
And later on, we had some of the Houston guys. Once we moved here, we had some LA guys. We had some move. You know, after Katrina, we finished the second record, and then we had the other guys from Houston, like Mark Dixon and Chris Walker from Al Jarreau's band, contribute to the record too as well. But yeah, it's really good to have that on the scene too, because we were trying to do things that were a little bit different from normal quintets, you know. So, but thanks to you, Doc, that a lot of us, you know, you helped a lot of us grow and develop, you know, and that's what we have. We just want to thank you, you know, right now, you know, while we able to thank you, you know. You see us, you know what I'm saying? So you see us on the scene, and
the pandemic gave me a chance to kind of relax for 10 months, and even after 10 months, we didn't know when we were going to get back, especially live music, you know. And I wasn't just going to open up for the sake of having a club. I wanted music, and until about less than a month ago, that still wasn't happening, you know. So. And I had that big birthday last January, you know, and so I made 80, you know, on 11th of January last year. And then sitting out for 10 months, you know, I said, you know, this feels pretty good, you know. So I decided to hang it up, you know, but I miss it. But you know something I'm looking at right now? A lot of people are doing jazz now. You're seeing it on Frenchman Street, other than Snug Harbor. Snug was my place to go to listen to music other than my place. But Jason used to come over by me, you know, because he loved it. Loved the atmosphere. It was so different from what he was doing. But I loved to go there because I was always going to hear you knew you were going to hear some great music there. But I'm seeing it, you know, Roy Frenchman. I'm seeing it up on St. Charles Avenue. Hotels have booking live jazz.
On the Train Hotel.
Yeah. And then in the Maroney, we're seeing music, you know. And that was not normal. That's abnormal, quite frankly. That wasn't happening, you know.
No, but
I think that people saw that it could work. and
Yeah.
they're musicians, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
were hanging out at the prime example. And
Yeah.
so, you know,
Man.
but I'm happy. I went to see my first show.
Yeah.
Actually, the first show that I had to cancel uh, when the pandemic started was Nicholas Payton. He was going to play that Thursday night. I think it was somewhere around the 18th or 17th or something like that of March.
Mm-hmm.
And then Topsy Chapman was the next night. You had to
Mm-hmm.
cancel that.
Wow.
Now, it just happened. I went to Tippertina's about a month ago, 3 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they booked Nicholas. Now you and no, there was no jazz at Tips. You
Yeah.
know, he played music, but it wasn't jazz. I went up there and they had seating and all of that. And I
Yeah.
remember many years ago, I went to Tips and you were standing in a big crowd and so forth, which
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the thing, you know, but um, it's interesting to see how it's spreading. And I'm glad of that. I'm glad the guys have more venues to work at and the
Mm-hmm.
music's getting greater exposure.
Yeah. I mean, the neighborhood club is seems to be the thing in New Orleans, and it works in New Orleans. These neighborhood clubs because they kind of grandfathered into certain things, and the zoning helps them. You know, the
Yeah.
zoning helps the way as New Orleans is zoned. I guess is a plus in terms of having neighborhood club.
And I surely hope that doesn't change. It's
We have a lot of gentrification people that think they're in Nantucket now. They want peace and quiet. You know,
absolutely. We
come to New
moved.
Orleans. You know.
I had a neighbor who moved,
Hmm.
4 doors away from the club, and then complained about cars parked in front of his house and all that. The club's been there for 50 years. It was a club before I got it. So
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, and but that is the reality. And I understand you also have to clean up behind your customers, make sure your neighborhood and
Yeah. Hmm. As long as
have
that's done, I think
acknowledge that
everything's
you
good.
got neighbors, but also um, they ought to, I think, realize that this is New Orleans, a part of our culture, and this was going on long before they bought
Amen.
in the
Amen.
neighborhood.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Amen.
So
Hmm. Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely, Doc. Well, you definitely had dropped a lot of knowledge on us tonight, and we want to thank you for coming on the Village Community Rising conversation, the journey conversation series, and so we thank you, Doc, from the bottom of our heart on behalf of all the musicians who have grown up with you at your club.
all right.
And
Well, thank you
with
so
play,
much. Thank you for having me,
yeah,
and thanks
we,
to
we
all of the people who supported me. And you know something, I really wanted to make sure that one of the people who by name I need to talk about for a minute that
sure.
helped me so much getting started, because when I first started, I'd have music band, I'd book a band, but they had to bring their own instruments, of course, their own sound systems and that kind of thing. Later, I got a piano, and I got the piano. Who put that bug in my ear was Ellis. One day he came by to drop Jason off, who was a teenager coming in to play drums. And I said, well, when are you going to come in and play? He said, when you get a piano. That was his answer to me, so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's true. That's true. A
yeah,
lot of jazz clubs, and they know who they are if they're listening. A lot of jazz clubs, and that includes Houston too. You want to be a jazz club? Get a real piano. Get a
yeah.
get a acoustic piano, man. That what I'm saying. A
And
grand,
and I
it doesn't
have
have
to
to be,
think
big grand.
after Katrina, I lost my piano.
Yeah.
Uh, and the Jazz Fest
Mm-hmm.
gave me a piano. They had a piano in storage, and
Mm-hmm.
they called and asked me if I needed a piano. I said,
Wow.
sure. And so I got that piano, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What you do with that piano now that you're gone? What happened to the piano?
I sold it with the business.
Oh, it went with the club. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then but then he didn't need it, and we got it up to a a uh, uh, a young man who's teaching some students.
Okay.
And off the top of the hand, I'm not thinking of the name right this minute. Just yeah. So it's still in use. Still in use.
Right.
I was thinking of that first piano too. I was talking one night and I was wondering where I could buy one. Larry Seberg is a person who helped me find that first one. That I had a Yamaha C7.
Yamaha C7. That's right.
Yeah, we went across the lake. A friend of his owned a music store, a piano store across the lake, and we went across there and I bought a piano.
Yeah.
And Ellis is the one prompted me to do that. And Herlin got me on the drums. Herlin told me, he said, Doc, he said, it's been a long time since I carried drums around. And
yeah, we don't carry equipment around. It just
you know, but I started to pick up this conversation because one of the people who, once I started to book in bands, often was Noel Carter. And Noel was in the sound business and he had some equipment. And Noel started to come in and just help me, volunteer and helping me with the sound. So then I got to a position that the bands didn't have to bring in their sound system because of that, you know.
Right.
And you know, we were using some of his equipment at first, and I bought some, and if I needed some extra, he brought some others. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned Noel. He was really, 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 really very helpful.
Definitely.
Later you know, and later had his own band in, you know, on Wednesday night. So he and Arthur Mitchell, Percy Williams, you know.
Yeah, Percy, that was a good band. I used to come over there, sit in with him sometimes too.
They're playing right across the street now. They're in the neighborhood still.
Yeah.
They're playing at Ray's now.
Ray's, I saw him over there. I saw Percy. Yeah, Ray's on the Avenue. For those of you listening, Ray's on the Avenue used to be Pampy's, right off of Broad and Brooksells, or what's that, Republic or Brooksells?
That's right, Brooksells, right there.
Yeah, right on the corner, right by the Prime Example Showcase, and then you have Ray's on the Avenue, which used to be the former Pampy's.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
But thank you, Doc. Thank you, man.
All right.
Insight. Thank you for your lifetime of dedication to the music and the culture of New Orleans, jazz in particular, and we salute you.
Thank you so much.
For those of you who are listening, thank you for tuning in, and have a good night.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Good. That was good, huh? Oh, he's gone. Look at all the people, baby.